Hi there. I'm a friendly kleptomaniac. And are you using that? No, you're not. You're not using that. Let me just take that from you. Thank you very much. What, the paper clips? You don't need paper clips. I'll take the paper clips. Thank you. Hashtag stealing is cool. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Hello everybody and welcome to Thumb Together. I'm Andrew Fantasia and today we are talking about Ocean's 8. Now, as always, if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and give some love to that subscribe button as well. The original Ocean's 11 with Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr. and the rest of the Rat Pack, I've never seen it all the way through. I've seen bits and pieces, and from what I remember, it's okay. And from what the general consensus is, it's also just okay. You know, it's not the most mind-blowing movie you'll ever see. It was just a glorification of the already overly glorified Rat Pack. It was just like, hey, here's these cool guys. Let's show you how cool they are for 90 minutes. And when the new Ocean's movies came out, back in the early 2000s, I think it was the same kind of thing. It's like, here's all these really cool, hot actors that you like. Let's show them being cool. But they also tried to deliver on a better story, a better heist movie. And they did. And what we got was a trilogy of fun heists that, you know, had some high points, had some low points, but overall, when you watch those movies, you just have a fun time, even if it is just a bunch of dudes being like, I'm cool. Well, I'm cooler. Well, guess what? I'm coolest. Even if it was just that, at least the heists they're pulling off were fun and they were elaborate and they, you know, compiled themselves together like a magic trick, and by the end you're like, wow, I did not know that this meant that, and everything was connected to those. And of course the people they're stealing from are usually kind of despicable people anyway, so you don't mind seeing them get away with this. Ocean's 8 was exactly the same. It was a very fun heist with very fun characters. They toned down the whole, like, look how cool I am, not as cool as me. They toned that down, thankfully, because that was getting pretty annoying. But it delivers a very fun heist with some little intricacies and twists in it, because they always have to have those little intricacies and twists in them. And it had its high points, and it had its low points, but at the end of the day, I had fun. So if you are looking for consistency, if you're looking for Ocean's 8 to meet the same standards as Ocean's 11, 12, and 13, congratulations. You are going to be pleased with Ocean's 8 because it is consistent to a T with 99% of what the original trilogy gave us. Now, the story is pretty straightforward. It is about Deborah Ocean, and she's the brother of Danny Ocean, and same kind of deal. She's, she's finally been granted parole. She's been in prison for 5 years for being a thief. And now she's finally out, and she wants to steal the big score so she never has to worry about money, because that's what thieves do. That's kind of how they roll. And she has been planning this score all throughout her tenure in lockdown. So for 5 years, she's been walking through this whole thing in her head. So she's got it down pat pretty well. And of course, as soon as she gets out, she starts recruiting and putting together her team. And we have this new group of thieves. And they're all different kinds of thieves. I will say this. With 8 people on the team, with this smaller number, it was a lot easier to keep track of who everybody was, what their skill set was, and what their motivations were. With Ocean's 11, I still have trouble remembering who all the guys are and what they all did differently. Like, I know Don Cheadle was one of my favorites, but I'll be damned if I can remember what Don Cheadle brought to the table. I don't remember if he was the explosives guy or if he was like a safecracker. I really don't remember what he did. And then the same goes for like Brad Pitt. All I know Brad Pitt did was look cool and eat things. I don't know what his job was. I don't even think that man ever stole anything in his life. I think he was just like a con artist or something. I could be wrong. With Ocean's 8, because it's a smaller group, everything is a lot more focused. Like when Mindy Kaling is on screen, Mindy Kaling's character runs a jewelry store, so she is the jewelry expert, and they are trying to steal jewels. So whenever Mindy Kaling is on screen and she's doing her work, I'm like, okay, I know exactly what her slice of this pie involves. I know what she's going to do. Same with Rihanna. Rihanna's the hacker, so I know every time I see Rihanna working, okay, I get it. She's trying to set up this part of the heist. And it was a lot more clear than when I just saw, you know, Matt Damon being like, hey, I'm a cool guy named Matt Damon. And I'm like, what are you doing in this casino? What is your job? So I like that about this. One asterisk I want to put on this is for the whole movie, I'm sitting there. We get to a point where Sandra Bullock puts her final team together and she's like, okay, we have our group. Let's start planning. And in that scene, I'm looking at the screen and I'm looking at all these women and I'm counting them. And I'm like, there's only 7 women here. The movie's called Ocean's 8. Where's number 8? And for the longest time in the movie, there are only 7 people involved in the heist. I will save for spoilers, but there is an 8th person. That's all I'll say for now. So what exactly are this group of women stealing? Well, they are stealing a diamond necklace called the Toussaint, and it's kept under a vault in Cartier's, where it just sits there in a vault. And it is this ginormous 6-pound diamond necklace, and it is worth a grand total of $150 million US. And when you divide that by 7 people in the gang, there's your payout. Not too shabby. And their plan involves getting a celebrity named Daphne Kluger to wear this necklace to the New York Met Gala, which is a big fashion event where a lot of rich people gather together and just wear weird shit and eat food and be like, hey guys, we're all rich here. Isn't that something? Isn't money great? Now, this movie star, Daphne Kluger, is the mark. She is the Andy Garcia of this movie, and she's played by Anne Hathaway. And she does a fantastic job in this movie, and Anne Hathaway was one of the standout characters. She's this very just clueless, vapid movie starlet who's just always like, look at me. I have such an ego, guys. Look at me. Oh my god, my necklace is so heavy. She plays that part so well. And again, like all the villains in these Oceans movies, like, you want to see her get robbed. Even though the necklace doesn't even belong to her, it's on loan from Cartier's. You want to see her get robbed because she's just such a moron. But on the subject of wanting to see a person or an establishment get robbed, I'm not a person who buys jewelry very often. I have my class ring from high school and that's it. So I don't know what Cartier's jewelry is all about. But I will say this. The whole culture of this thing, the whole culture of, here's this really fancy New York jewelry store, okay? Here it is. It's like Tiffany's. It's so fancy. If you're not walking in there with $1,000 in your pocket, you're not serious. And they have this old necklace in a vault downstairs that's worth $150 million in diamonds. And they don't even take it out unless it's on special occasions like this. Otherwise, it just sits in a box, in another box, in a vault, in the basement. I don't know anything about the Toussaint necklace. Maybe it's a famous real necklace. Maybe it has some kind of historical value. Like maybe Napoleon bought it for his wife once or something. I don't know. Maybe that's the case. And if that's the case, I apologize for what I'm about to say. But if it's just a really nice set of diamonds that some person put together and is like, here, this is $150 million now. There you go. I think that's a very wasteful thing to exist on planet Earth. Here's this thing. It's $150 million. I can feed a bunch of very hungry people with that. I can make some downtrodden people very happy. But no, I'm going to ball this up into a necklace and lock it away so it never sees the light of day because expensive jewelry store. I am very glad to see these women come along and basically take that stupid necklace and be like, yeah, you know what? Let's just pull this apart and let's sell it, and there we go. And now it's being put to some actual good use. And I'm sure there are diamond enthusiasts and necklace enthusiasts out there right now who would scream at the screen and call me an idiot and say, don't you know what the Toussaint stands for? And I'm you know what? I don't know. Please tell me. Tell me if the, I just called it the Toussaint. That was wrong. The Toussaint. Tell me if the Toussaint is something, important. If it's is it like the Great Pyramids? Is it something that we need to keep, to remind ourselves of an important piece of history? Or is it a bunch of diamonds? Because right now it's looking like a bunch of diamonds. So as per their plan, they recruit Helena Bonham Carter, who is a failing fashion designer, and they get her to team up with Hathaway and basically tell Anne Hathaway's character, I will dress you for the Met Gala. And Hathaway agrees because she's like, okay, cool, Met. She was really, Hathaway was so funny. And the plan is, okay, Helena Bonham Carter is going to ask Cartier's to lend them the necklace because she's like, I want to put this on Anne Hathaway's neck for the Vogue Met Gala. And that's like the who's who of fashion. So don't you want people to see your fancy Cartier's necklace on this woman's fancy neck? I think you do. Let us borrow the necklace. And that's how they get it out of that vault. Now again, maybe there are fashion people in the world who will call me ignorant and spit at their screen when they hear me say this. I really can't get behind the whole culture of, yes, here, I'll borrow your $150 million necklace just to show off how much money things are worth. And then I'll walk in front of cameras at the Vogue Met Gala and be like, look what I'm wearing. Aren't you jealous of me? Aren't you jealous that you don't get to wear this? That's essentially what these famous people are doing. Keep driving the same point home, but I am so glad that Sandra Bullock and her friends are robbing these people. That's what's fun about movies like this, is they create situations where, yeah, these people are criminals. Yeah, Sandra Bullock and her group are criminals. They are doing very illegal things, but you know what? So are their marks. So are the people they are robbing. These are not upstanding people. They're robbing just disgustingly rich, filthy rich people. Now let's get into spoilers. Obviously, with heist movies, there are always spoilers because something always happens in the third act that kind of twists everything around. And that is precisely what goes on here. You know, they execute their plan, which is a lot simpler than previous Ocean's plans. I will say that, and it's gotten a lot of flack from critics about that, but I think it's fine. It's a much more simpler, streamlined plan. It's just like, go here, go there, grab this, we have the necklace, let's go. But they do add some more layers on top of it, as we find out later as a spoiler. And the biggest spoiler of all, as I mentioned earlier, was who is this eighth person who joins the Ocean's 8 crew? Well, it's none other than Anne Hathaway's character. However, I'm not sure if I'm a fan of how that came to be. When she shows up, she just sort of appears in their lair, and she's like, guys, they're on to us. I thought, oh my god, that's really cool. She's been in on it from the beginning, and she's been playing the part of this like really ditzy movie star. But that wasn't the case. It seemed like what was happening was just during the heist, she was starting to catch on that things were happening, that this was, you know, some kind of scheme, and she's just like, I want in. And they're like, okay. And that's not as cool to me. That's not as interesting as if she had been in on it from the beginning. You know, they show flashes of her throughout the movie where she's like taking notice of things like, oh, you're taking a picture of the necklace. That's not sketch in any way. Oh, I recognize Sandra Bullock, even though I'm not going to say anything. Guess what? I figured it out. And it was a little bit odd and just rushed and weird. Like I said, it didn't feel organic. It didn't feel like if Sandra Bullock had just said like, yeah, Daphne Kluger, her and I go back, and we, you know, she's been helping us out, but I didn't want any of you to know, or something like that. At least that would have been a bit more of a, you know, bait and switch kind of thing. This just felt sloppy. I feel like it was just like, hey, I'm on to you, give me a cut. Sure, welcome aboard. And that was it. And then she's with them now, and she's their friend. So that was a little bit odd, but at least that was, you know, as I'm sitting there in the theater, I'm like, well, you know what? At least now I know who number 8 is, because that's been bugging me this whole time. Now, as I mentioned, Sandra Bullock's character is in fact named Deborah Ocean, and she is the sister of Danny Ocean, George Clooney's character. And as we find out very early on in the movie, Danny Ocean apparently has died. And in fact, Sandra Bullock, even when she makes parole and she gets out, the first thing she does is she goes and she visits his tomb. And it says right there, Daniel Ocean, 1963 to 2018. However, there's a running joke throughout the movie where she's saying, you know, I'm pretty sure he's really dead, but for all I know, he could have been faking it because it's freaking Danny Ocean. Now, obviously, they didn't tell us whether or not he's really in there. I personally don't think he is, because sequel potential is too juicy right now. But we do get some cameos from 2 members of his original Ocean's 11 team. We get a cameo from Saul, Elliot Gould's character. He shows up towards the beginning and says hello to Deborah, and his presence kind of spells out the fact that this is a sequel, because he's obviously much older and he looks very rich, and he's like, yeah, I'm living off the spoils of those 3 heists I pulled. Life is good. And then much later in the movie, we get our second cameo, which is the amazing Yen. If you'll remember from the originals, you know, even though there is the core 11, you know, Ocean's 11, there's always some people on the side where it's, you know, it's a surprise. It's like, here comes this big security guard, he's going to beat him up. No, he's in on it. He knows them, and Danny Ocean slips him like $150 and he lets them walk through a door, like that kind of thing. The amazing Yen was that, you know, he was another side person who just kind of helped them out and got like a small cut. He helps out Cate Blanchett with a side heist that it turns out was happening throughout the main heist, because this Vogue Met Gala took place at the museum, the Metropolitan Museum of Fine Art, and it was showing off a display of crown jewels from various royal families throughout the world. Of course, the focus was just on the necklace Anne Hathaway's wearing, but as we find out later, they didn't just steal that necklace, they stole about 20 more from these crown jewels, and that was what Cate Blanchett and the amazing Yen were doing the whole time when we didn't see them during the heist. So these little cameos were cool, but I'm glad that there wasn't an over-reliance on them. You know, this isn't like Marvel where I'm like, oh god, I really hope Captain America shows up. The Ocean's 11 crew are not that cool, despite what they might think. I can take or leave seeing them. Like, if the whole movie goes by and Brad Pitt never shows up eating a lollipop, I'll be okay. I'll live. I would rather learn more about these women and like focus on the heist they're pulling. So the cameos were very few and far between, and they worked to serve the story. All in all, you are going to have a good time with Ocean's 8. Like I said, it's a lot of fun. It's just not as elaborate a heist as you may be expecting by now. It's smaller scale, both in terms of the size of the team and the size of the heist. But I think that's a good thing, because having 8 people really makes it easier to keep track of all my homies. And I know who all my homies are, and I know what they want. Now, are they going to do an Ocean's 9 and 10? I think it makes perfect sense, as long as they can come up with some other great things for them to steal and some other really despicable people for them to steal from. It was fun. You are going to have a great time. I will close this off by saying one more thing. Awkwafina's character was the pickpocket. She's an expert pickpocket. She's the one who they get to actually lift the necklace from Anne Hathaway's neck. I have this thing, personally. I don't believe pickpockets are a real thing. Yeah, I mean, you see them in movies all the time. And in this one, it's no exception. You know, she's this very skilled pickpocket. She's walking beside Sandra Bullock, and then Sandra Bullock's like, can I have my watch back, please? And she's like, oh, sorry. Yeah, here's your watch. You know, can't blame me for trying. I'm a little thief. I don't buy that. This isn't a slam against the movie. This is just a slam against the idea of pickpockets in general. Tell me how a person is going to get this off my hand without me feeling. It's not possible. It is literally not possible. Like, look, let me show you the process of how you have to get this watch off. First you do that, then you have to squeeze these and open that, and then somehow pull it off my fingers. How in the name of all that is sacred is this person going to do that just by like being like, oh, sorry, I didn't see you, I bumped into you. Got your watch now? No. Absolutely not. Not happening. But anyways, that is Ocean's 8. That's Thumb Together. My name is Andrew Fantasia. Thank you so much for joining me on this crime-filled escapade. I'll see you here next time. Until then, adios. Seriously?